The amazing world of Gumball is filled with Easter eggs, references, fun facts, and so much more. So today, we're finding one interesting fact from each Gumball episode, from Season 1 to Season 3, starting with the very first episode of Gumball, the DVD. This episode revolves around Gumball forgetting to return a DVD that he rented from Laser Video. After being barraged by Nicole to give it back, he goes to get the DVD, only to find Darwin using the DVD as a pizza cutter. And then, to make it even worse, he throws it down the garbage disposal. Gumball and Darwin now have to try to find a way to get Laser Video off their bat. What is their idea, you may ask? Well, instead of downloading the movie online, Gumball and Darwin try remaking the movie in their backyard, and we get to see it in all of its glory. The movie that they rented and tried to remake, Alligators on a Train, is clearly a parody of the movie Snakes on a Plane, with Darwin even mimicking Samuel Jackson's mannerisms and mustache in their version of the movie. The next episode, The Responsible, has Gumball and Darwin babysitting their little sister, Anais, while their parents are out. But Gumball and Darwin treat Anais more like, well, a dog, than their alive human sister who is way smarter than they are. In this episode, Gumball sometimes calls Anais Anais.
Anais, let us in!
Instead of the more commonly used Anais.
Come back, Anais!
This was always really confusing because these two pronunciations are very different, so it never made sense why they'd use both of them. Well, we'd actually get our answer 5 years later in the episode The Choices, where we see Anais changing the I and A in her name, which is probably where the difference in pronunciation comes from. The third episode is appropriately titled The Third, and is about Gumball and Darwin trying to breathe some new life into their friendship by bringing a third person on board. This is actually the first time we get to see Tobias Wilson, who becomes the third friend and eventually entices Darwin to come back to his house to play his brand new Z Station, which is clearly a parody of the PlayStation 3. Plus, the game on it looks suspiciously similar to Mortal Kombat, and the most recent Mortal Kombat at the time, Mortal Kombat 9, was released on the PlayStation 3 only a couple months before the season aired. The next episode, titled The Debt, is the first actual time we get to see Mr. Robinson, Gumball's cranky neighbor, who Gumball for some reason worships like a god. Well, Mrs. Robinson, on the other hand, turns out to be the literal spawn of Satan. You can see that Mr. Robinson looks a lot more realistic in this episode. This is because as the series went on, they wanted to use Mr. Robinson more and more. And to make the process easier, they changed his design to look more animated. Next, in the episode The End, Gumball mistakenly thinks that the Earth will end by the end of the day when it's just an eclipse. Every time the scene transitions, they show how much time has passed on a 24-hour timer. This is a direct reference to the TV show 24, starring Kiefer Sutherland, where every season takes place over 24 hours. And after every commercial break, they'll show how much time has passed on a 24-hour timer, exactly like how they do in this episode of Gumball. Next is the episode The Dress. In this episode, Gumball's clothes get destroyed, leading to him having to wear Nicole's old wedding dress, which fools all the kids at school into thinking Gumball is actually the new girl in the class. And this even causes Darwin to fall in love with him. This goes way too far, and Gumball has to break up with Darwin. In his speech to Darwin, Gumball says,
"It's better to have loved and watch that love be burnt before your very eyes than to never have loved at all,"
which is a reference to the poet Lord Tennyson in memoriam. Then we have The Quest. In this episode, Tina steals Anais's Daisy the Donkey toy, and the gang have to sneak into the junkyard to steal the toy back from Tina. This episode is best known for its chase scene. The trio run away from Tina, and in fact, this scene was so memorable that there was actually an online flash game based on it called Dino Donkey Dash. I remember playing this back as a kid and getting so mad because the mechanics were just too much for my brain to handle. The next episode is The Spoon, where a criminal named Sal Left Thumb tries to rob a gas station and gaslights Gumball and Darwin into helping him. Now, the biggest fun fact in this episode is that it actually features the first fourth wall break in the entire show, when Donut Cop comes and asks the boys about why there's a mustache in his hot dog. The boys say it's their secret ingredient, and they wink at the camera. Though this may be small, this would be the first fourth wall wall break in a show, let's just say the first of many. Next up is the pressure. In this episode, Masami forces Darwin to be her boyfriend. Much to Darwin and his friends' dismay, repeatedly, Banana Joe and Tobias say pals before gals to remind Darwin that the boys come first.
Pals before gals! Remember, pals before gals.
This line is a more family-friendly version of the iconic bros before hoes. The pals before gals line resonated so much that they decided to make t-shirts with the line on it. Now we're on to episode 10, the painting. In this episode, Anais draws a picture of her family, showing all of the dysfunctions of each member. Richard being too lazy, the boys being too crazy, and Nicole being too stressed. In order to stop the boys being so insane, he sends them to Mr. Small, who tries teaching them anger management. One of the exercises is screaming all of their anger out, which, when Darwin is asked to do so, he produces a bubble from his mouth that, when popped, makes a noise so loud that this happens. The clip of the house being destroyed is actual real footage of the US military testing out the Apple II nuclear bomb. The next episode is titled The Laziest, and it revolves around Gumball and Darwin trying to find a person that is more lazy than Richard Watterson. In order to win a bet, everyone tells them to go find Lazy Larry, but Larry says that he's done being lazy. Plus, he mentions he even has a house and a car now. A lot of people have pointed out the similarity between this house and the iconic Park House in Regular Show that Mordecai and Rigby stay in. But did you know that this house is actually a replica of a real house in Vallejo, California? Seemingly, the only difference is the color. Next up, we have the ghost. And this episode is filled with references and fun facts. In this episode, Carrie takes over Gumball's body and eats an abhorrent amount of food. There are loads of references to The Exorcist in this episode. Like the main conflict of Gumball fighting back against the spirit possessing him is literally the same plot as The Exorcist, and how he creepily twists his hand and contorts his body around is just like in the movie. Also, the montages that play during Carrie's rampages are a homage to one of, if not the most controversial music videos of all time, Smack My Up by The Prodigy. This video is so twisted that you can't even find the full version on YouTube. The mystery is the next episode, and this episode has the class trying to discover who assaulted Principal Brown. Gumball goes through each suspect until he lands on Darwin, who has toilet paper stuck to his shoe. This makes Gumball believe he's guilty, but then the class tells him that the toilet paper has been on his shoe all day. Then it cuts to a montage of Darwin walking around, unknowingly dragging toilet paper with him, with comedic music behind it. This entire scene is a reference to The Benny Hill Show, which was a classic British TV show that aired for over 40 years. The Benny Hill references don't end there though, because when Principal Brown and Miss Simeon are flung out of the window, a puppet is used instead of animation, which is also a nod to The Benny Hill Show. Then there's the prank. In this episode, Richard pranks Gumball and Darwin, which starts a full-on prank war. A lot of the pranks they pull on each other have Easter eggs. For example, when Gumball and Darwin push Richard into the ocean on a raft while he's sleeping, that is a reference to The Parent Trap. Another prank where Richard puts a bucket of water on top of the door, thinking it will drench Gumball and Darwin, is actually a reference to the movie Carrie, where at the end of the movie, Carrie gets a bucket emptied on her as a prank. The next episode is the G. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin are wearing karate G's, pretending to be martial art masters. While the entire school is making fun of them, there are multiple references to the Karate Kid, but I think the biggest and funniest reference is the training montage, where Gumball and Darwin go outside and train with this rock song, similar to how Daniel LaRusso did in the movie. But instead of actually training, they're just dancing. Also, this episode is tied for the shortest title. The next episode is The Kiss, where Granny JoJo comes to visit the Wattersons and gives Gumball a massive kiss on the mouth. This unsurprisingly traumatizes Gumball, and Darwin tries his best to help him get his spirit back and find his happy place. In the Cartoon Network game Fusion Fall, Darwin has a move called the Trauma Therapy, which is a callback to this episode. Now we have the party. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin go to Tobias' sister, Rachel's party. The party leads to absolute mayhem, destroying the house and all of its furniture. Rachel is absolutely horrified by this, but then Darwin comes to rescue the situation, fixing up the entire house and earning him a kiss from Rachel. Despite playing such a big role in Darwin's life, this is the first and last major appearance from Rachel, because the writers did not like her. In universe, this was explained by her just going away to college. Then we have the episode The Refund, another episode absolutely filled with references. Firstly, the game cartridge that the kids get is similar to an old Nintendo 64 cartridge, while their console seems to be similar to an Xbox 360. And if you know anything about video games, you know a Nintendo 64 cartridge cannot fit into an Xbox 360, which Larry won't give. They then try to persuade Larry by playing a video game in style of a charity PSA with a song about how refunds are necessary.
Refunded sooner. Uphold the rights that little Jimmy had as a consumer.
Well, the song is clearly inspired by We Are the World, another charity song.
When the world must come together as one.
Finally, the boys bring in Richard, who go to confront Larry, but before he does, he suits up, and the song that plays is Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood and the Destroyers.
I'm here to tell you, honey, that I'm bad to the bone.
Next is the robot. In this episode, Bobbert tries to become human with the help of Gumball and Darwin, but instead, he impersonates Gumball and takes over his life. The motivation of Bobbert trying to become human is 100% referencing Pinocchio. Also, Bobbert calls his mom Mom Unit,
Coming, Mom Unit.
which is a reference to the show Whatever Happened to Robot Jones. Then there is episode 20, The Picnic. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin need to find their way to the picnic site, but instead get lost in the Forest of Doom. They find a bunch of nasty and scary stuff, despite it literally being called the Forest of Doom and being told never to go there.
We go along the path, avoiding the Forest of Doom. Down the ravine, avoiding the Forest of Doom. Along the lake, still avoiding the Forest of Doom. And arrive at the picnic.
They actually go there a bunch of times after this episode, making the Forest of Doom a main location in the show. Episode 21 is The Goons, where Anais wants to bond with Gumball, Darwin, and Richard. So in order to do this, she becomes stupid. So stupid, in fact, that she ends up replacing Gumball, and Richard starts to spend way more time with Anais. To win the love of Richard back, Gumball organizes the Dumb Race, a race where everyone is blindfolded and whoever wins is the dumbest. The Dumb Race definitely lived up to its name, with Idaho getting hit by a golf club, Banana Joe getting sliced up,
Oh, I'm a banana split.
and Anton eaten by ducks. The Dumb Race was made into a game on the Cartoon Network website, which you can still play to this day on Flash Archive sites. Next up is The Secret. In this episode, Gumball is trying to find out Darwin's big secret through various different means, by torturing him with spicy food, reading his mind, and finally locking him in a bathroom and throwing away the key. Darwin then tells Gumball the quote-unquote secret.
You know last week when you made me that sandwich and I said it was great? Well,
It was just good.
Which was a total lie, and the actual secret was that Gumball had unknowingly uploaded a video of him dancing and accidentally destroying his room. This video, called the Hip Flop, is a clear parody of the webcam dance video. This is an ancient meme where a girl is trying to dance, but then accidentally kicks the ceiling light, causing her to grab the curtains and push her computer off the desk, just like Gumball did. It's kind of crazy how they not only parodied the video, but the exact moves that she did to destroy her room. The sock is up next, where Gumball and Darwin are sent to Mr. Small's office for lying. Mr. Small tries to teach Gumball and Darwin about lying, but they don't seem to get it. So after, they lie about Principal Brown's head being on fire. Mr. Small has had enough, and just tells the boys to be silent. This backfires heavily after Mr. Small accidentally gets trapped in a filing cabinet and then has to get the boys to try and help him out. But since the boys can't speak, Mr. Small ends up getting trapped for a long time. So long, in fact, that it's revealed in a future episode that he had developed claustrophobia.
It says here, the claustrophobia.
The next episode is the brain. Darwin gets sent off to a facility to do math because of how high he scored on an aptitude test. Gumball wants to try to get Darwin back by doing the aptitude test and scoring high enough to get to the facility. Gumball tries to get smarter, but his brain has had enough, so it just leaves. Gumball then convinces the brain to go through a training montage.
Every day, but something popped inside my brain. I got up to fight that fight.
And the song played during the montage, called You Gotta Think Big, is actually a parody of Hip to Be Square by Huey Lewis and the News. Most people know this song as the one Patrick Bateman played before offing Paul Allen in American Psycho. Next, we have the poltergeist. In this episode, Richard thinks there's a ghost inside due to the scary random moaning noises during the night, but it's actually just Mr. Robinson, who's separated from Mrs. Robinson for being too nice. Richard tries to fight off what he thinks is the ghost using a vacuum cleaner, which is a clear, direct reference to the Luigi Mansion games, where Luigi sucks up ghosts using a vacuum cleaner. Also, in other countries, this episode was called The Ghost, which is really confusing because there's already an episode called The Ghost. The next episode is The Mustache, where Gumball and Darwin take Richard's testosterone supplements instead of regular cereal, turning them into men. Gumball and Darwin are initially freaked out by this, but after they realize that being men is actually really cool, they sing a song about it called Because We're Men. Now, if you're a fan of SpongeBob, you may recognize that name, because there's a song in the 2004 SpongeBob movie called Now That We're Men,
Now that we're men, we are invincible.
which Gumball parodied for this song.
Because we're men, we can have our own kids.
Next up is the date. Gumball gets invited to Penny's house for what he thinks is a date, but it's actually a funeral for her pet spider. Gumball needs to get suited up for the occasion, and where else to go but the dump. Richard helps him pick out clothes, including shoes, and you may not have noticed it, but this is the first time that Gumball ever wears shoes. Now, we have the club. In this episode, the family all goes to their own clubs, but unfortunately, Gumball doesn't have a club to go to, and he can't fit into any of the clubs that his other family members go to. So he's recruited by the Rejects Club, but he politely turns down their request, which causes them to try to take revenge, but then the whole Watterson family fights back. This whole fight sequence has multiple pop culture references. Firstly, Nicole needs to get angry to break down the door, so Richard tells her that he recorded a wrestling match on their wedding tape.
I taped a wrestling match over our wedding video?
This is a reference to something that happened on the sitcom Everyone Loves Raymond. Then Richard confronts one of the Egg brothers, who says, "You shall not pass,"
Thou shalt not pass.
which is obviously a reference to Gandalf from Lord of the Rings.
Shall not pass.
And finally, the other Egg brother is guarding the computer with a broom, which is a reference to the viral Star Wars Kid video. Next up is the wand. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin give Richard a magic wand toy that they find in a cereal box. Richard thinks that the wand can do actual magic and uses the wand to grant wishes. The design of the wand, plus the fact it grants wishes, clearly shows it's a parody of the Fairy Odd Parents. Episode 30 is the 8. In this episode, Miss Simeon is trying to win the Favorite Teacher Award, so she goes to live with Gumball to bribe him to get his reference for Miss Simeon to win the Favorite Teacher Award. When Gumball, Darwin, and Nicole give in and get her the reference, she runs off to go to the awarding body. Nicole finds out her intentions and then chases her to get back the reference. This leads to the reference getting caught in the windshield, and Miss Simeon tries to grab it. This scene is very much inspired from a similar one in Back to the Future 2. Next is episode 31, the car. Gumball and Darwin try to clean Mr. Robinson's car, but then it gets absolutely totaled. They hide in the attic out of shame until it's revealed that Richard actually destroyed the car with a hammer. He seemingly was able to put it back together, but then when Gumball and Darwin tried cleaning the car, it fell apart again. However, it's revealed that before all of this, Nicole accidentally backed up into Mr. Robinson's car. Mr. Robinson wants to take revenge revenge. So he and Mrs. Robinson takes golf clubs and destroy the Wattersons' car. The scene where the Robinsons break the Wattersons' car with a golf club is a direct reference to the Big Lebowski. Even the line that Mr. Robinson says while destroying the car, "This is what happens when you mess with Gaylord."
This is what happens when you mess with Gaylord. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is what
is the exact same as what Walter said while destroying the car in Big Lebowski.
See what happens when you fuck a stranger? That's what happens.
Well, almost the exact same. Up next, we have the curse. In this episode, Gumball believes that he is cursed because of how much bad luck he has. This episode actually has had multiple clips surface before the episode aired. You may think this was because of a leaker, but no, the official Cartoon Network published these clips for some reason. Next is the microwave, where Gumball and Darwin microwave a bunch of gross stuff that turns to life. They name it Kenneth and become its parents. However, Kenneth proceeds to eat their family and becomes a kaiju. Then Booklet revealed on Twitter, this episode was the first one he ever thought of, and he even created an animatic of this idea way before the episode began production, which he used to pitch Gumball to Cartoon Network. At Ben Booklet, what was the first Gumball episode ever thought of? An episode called The Gross Jar. It was just an animatic to sell the show to Cartoon Network. Then we have the Meddler. Nicole goes to school with Gumball and treats him like a baby the entire day, causing him to become extremely embarrassed. After a whole day of his mom following him around, he's had enough and tells her to leave. But literally, as she's going into her car, Gumball calls her back to help him during a cheerleading tryout.
Mom, you've got to come back. I made my own decision. It was a bad one. A really, really bad one.
Gumball, with the emotional support from his mom, goes to the tryout and he completely fails. The scene of Gumball's cheerleader tryout is actually based off a music video for the song El Turobang. Up next is the helmet, where Gumball is tired of his lucky tinfoil hat, so he gives it to Richard and Nicole. All three of them then develop an unhealthy obsession with the hat, to the point of them literally fighting each other over it. So Anais and Darwin decide to throw the hat into a garbage crusher, but just as they're about to throw it into the crusher, Gumball snatches it, acting unhinged and feral. However, they are eventually able to snap Gumball out of it and destroy the hat. If you haven't picked up on it already, this episode is a massive homage to Lord of the Rings, where the tinfoil hat is, well, the ring, which causes everyone who wears it to develop an obsession with it. Even the plot of Anais and Darwin needing to throw the hat into the fiery garbage crusher is the same as the Lord of the Rings, where Sam and Frodo need to throw the ring into the volcano at Mordor. The final episode of season 1 is the fight. In this episode, Tina wants to fight Gumball, and so Gumball tries to avoid her at any cost. After most of his attempts fail, Gumball then sneaks the help of Darwin, who builds him a suit out of cardboard and a bucket helmet. The way Darwin puts the helmet on Gumball is directly referencing both episode 2 and 5 of Star Wars, when Darth Vader puts his helmet on in the hospital and meditation chamber respectively. Now we move on to season 2, where the facts only get more interesting. Episode 1, The Remote, has the family all trying to get the remote so they can watch their show at night. Anais says the brand of the remote is supposedly a Logicar 2000, which is a play on the Logitech electronics company. However, the reason I say supposedly is that Anais actually played the whole family the entire time, making Nicole buy a fake remote, which was just a garage door opener. The scene where the family realize how Anais had duped them is a clear homage to the Saw movies. In the Saw movies, whenever the twist is revealed, the characters will flash back to seemingly unimportant scenes, but were actually pivotal in the story. The scenes would also be complemented with an ominous score. This is exactly how the final scene of the remote played out. Next is the Colossus, which revolves around Hector, Elmore's resident giant, who rejects Gumball and Darwin's friend request. This is due to his mother not letting him have friends, because if Hector experiences even the most basic emotions, he could destroy everything. This is displayed in full force when Gumball and Darwin call Hector boring.
It's not your fault
thought you're boring?
which makes him go on a rampage and destroy everything. Eventually, they were able to calm him down and put him to sleep. However, here we can see Hector's full size, where he lays from head to toe across a football field, which would put him at 300 feet tall. Next, we have the Knights. In this episode, Gumball and Penny have a partner history project together, but her dad Patrick does not like Gumball at all. Then comes Tobias, who wants to do the project with Penny and goes back to her house to ask her, but then Patrick slams the door on his foot. When Tobias is able to get his foot out and does the iconic Peter Griffin knee moment, where Peter hurts his knee, he'll grab it and go "Ah!" for an extended period, just like how Tobias did. Next is the fridge. Nicole makes a chart on the fridge and ranks the family based on their achievements for the week. This seemingly fun chart, though, is taken way too seriously, to the point where they're all fighting each other over it. There's a bunch of Star Wars references in this. First is when Nicole tells Gumball to join him in becoming a winner.
Enough! I have won! The game is over!
Not until you've shot me. Then you'll finally join me.
Which is clearly a reference to when Darth Vader told Luke to join him in Empire Strikes Back.
Join me, and I will complete your training.
When Nicole gets put at gunpoint in the paintball match, she tells him to use his anger.
That's right. Use your anger.
Which is the same thing Emperor told Luke in Return of the Jedi.
I can feel your anger.
But the most apparent reference is when paint-written Richard asks Gumball to take off the mask.
Take off the mask.
Which is 100% a recreation of the scene where dying Vader asks Luke to remove his helmet. Up next, we have the flower, where Gumball believes Leslie and Penny are in a relationship. So he gets super jealous to the point where he literally gets possessed by his jealousy. There are loads of references to ghost media in this episode. Like the salt ring they trap Gumball in is a reference to the show Supernatural. The whole exorcism scene is a homage to, well, The Exorcist. And finally, when Leslie uses a vacuum to suck up the ghost, it's clearly a reference to Luigi's Mansion or the Ghostbusters. Also, the final reveal that Leslie and Penny are cousins actually makes biological sense, as peanuts can grow on certain flowers.
You gotta break up with Leslie! What are you talking about? We're not dating, we're cousins!
Then we have the banana. Darwin's pen has multiple holes in it after lending it to Banana Joe, which leads Gumball to think that he chewed the pen. Joe says that he didn't, and Darwin doesn't care, but Gumball thinks that they should get revenge. The early drafts of the script of this episode was revealed on the website Scribd, because someone leaked a call between the writers and some students who were interviewing them. Unfortunately, though, in this early script, all the changes were super small, like the word stabbed being replaced with punctured and pierced. The next episode is the phone, where Gumball and Darwin get a cell phone, and Darwin gets addicted to texting Ocho. Eventually, Gumball gets fed up and texts some very rude stuff to Ocho,
Mom gave me scurvy. I'm so ready for a fight. You're a dork.
who comes to try to kill them. This episode is a massive love letter to the Space Invader games. Firstly, the game that Gumball and Darwin were playing was literally just a more advanced version of Space Invaders. The final fight with Ocho is literally just Space Invaders in real life, and even the character Ocho, who is an 8-bit alien spider who shoots lasers, is just like the aliens in Space Invaders. Now we have the job, where Richard gets a job, a pizza delivery job to be more exact. At first, everything seems to be normal. However, as the episode progresses, the world seems to be getting really messed up, and it gets revealed that if Richard gets a job, then the literal fabric of the universe will get destroyed. This episode is a reference to another horror movie, The Omen, where an unassuming young boy unknowingly brings about supernatural destruction to the world, and is actually revealed to be the Antichrist. Richard being unaware of all the destruction he's causing, him being prophesized to bring the end of the universe if he has a job, and the orchestral score All of this points to this episode being a reference to The Omen. Halloween is the next episode, where Gumball and Darwin go to a ghost party with Carrie and literally become ghosts. This episode is historic, as it's the first time in the history of the show where the title doesn't have the word "the" in it. Also, the climax of the episode is a reference to the poltergeist, where everyone gets pulled into a portal. That brings us to season 2, episode 10, The Treasure. This episode revolves around Gumball, Darwin, and Anais trying to find out why they're so poor, which leads them on a treasure hunt that eventually reveals that Richard got scammed for $24,000, which is why they are poor. This is actually the first time where the Wattersons are explicitly said to be poor.
The reason we'll never be able to afford what we want.
Which is one of their most important traits later in the show. Also, the movie that Richard watches, How to Ratawing Your Panda, is a parody of the Brazilian mockbusters Ratatouille and the Little Panda Fighter. Even the snippet of the movies that we see in the episode look almost identical to those bootleg movies. Season 2, episode 11, The Apology. In this one, Miss Simeon tries multiple ways to get Gumball and Darwin in trouble with Principal Brown. One of the things she tried was putting in a $100 bill on the ground in hopes that they'll steal it and she'll catch them in the act. When the boys see the money, they are overcome with joy and scream. Now, if you were a true legend, you would know that this is a reference to Regular Show, where whenever anything good would happen to Mordecai and Rigby, they would also scream. The next episode is The Words, where Darwin is tired of letting everyone walk all over him, and so he decides to tell everyone what he thinks about them with brutal honesty.
Amy's rude and impolite because she's half cow, half troglodyte. She's half cow, half troglodyte.
This at first works, but then just evolves to Darwin being a massive jerk. Such a big jerk, in fact, that Gumball decides the only way to stop him is having a massive insult fight with him. This entire fight scene is a direct reference to Street Fighter 2, even having Darwin's big head attack resemble a Hadoken. And if you've played any online fighting games, not just Street Fighter, you'd know Gumball's pain of being spammed with the same cheap attack and getting absolutely demolished. Up next is the Skull. Here, we're introduced to Clayton, who just cannot stop lying about everything. Gumball and Darwin try their best to fix Clayton's attitude, but after a whole day of him just deceiving them, they tell him to get lost. But soon after, Miss Simeon bursts into the cafeteria, asking who upset Clayton, and Banana Joe snitches on them. The song that plays as Banana Joe points to Gumball and Darwin is the Vesti La Gubita, pronounced Vestali La Juba, by Ruggiero Leoncavallo. Then we have the bet, where Gumball wins a bet against Bobbert, and so he has to obey Gumball's every order. This eventually backfires when Gumball, for some stupid reason, says Bobbert terminate Gumball.
As long as I don't say Bobbert terminate Gumball or whatever, it's fine.
And Bobbert attempts to do exactly that. The word terminate and the fact that he's a killer robot out to kill an innocent child should clue you in on the fact that they're parodying the movie Terminator. But in case you don't get it, they literally do POV shots from Bobbert's perspective, and it's literally the same as Arnold's in the Terminator. Next, we have Christmas, the second and final episode to not have the word "the" in it. This episode actually has one of the craziest facts out of all of them, with a whole scene and everything. In this episode, Richard runs over a homeless person whom the family thinks is Santa, but Nicole is adamant that it's just a hobo. Nicole, after a whole day of trying to convince the kids, breaks the secret oath of all parents and tells them that Santa isn't real.
Let me tell you something about Santa Claus. There is no Santa Claus.
This breaks their hearts, and they run away. Nicole tries to find the kids in a park where she says Santa isn't real, just like Bigfoot, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and Switzerland. This scene in the park was actually cut in several countries after release, probably because the network didn't want to piss off the country of Switzerland. I remember back when the episode first came out, and I'd seen the version with the scene, but a few months later, and all the reruns were the version that had the cut scene. So I thought I was either either going insane and had hallucinated a whole freaking scene, or there was some Mandela effect at play. But no, it was just Cartoon Network gaslighting me. Next is the watch. Richard gives Gumball a watch and explains its entire decorated history to him, which is very much paying a homage to Pulp Fiction. Gumball thinks it's just a waste of space, so gives it to Darwin, who gives it to Marvin, his elderly neighbor. Now, if Darwin had listened to Richard's explanation, he would know that Marvin had been trying to get the watch his whole life. So this leads Gumball and Darwin to try multiple ways to get the watch back, until they realize Richard doesn't really care about the watch, so they let Marvin keep it. This is until they realize that the watch costs $700, and then a massive mobility scooter chase ensues. The two guys in the TV program where they value the watch was actually Mick Graves and Ben Boclet, who are two of the creators of the show. Now, we have the episode The Bumpkin, the first major appearance of Idaho. His primitive lifestyle attracts Gumball, who brings him home to teach the family about living in the great outdoors. Eventually, the Wattersons grow to like the outside life, but it's revealed at midnight that Gumball snuck back into the house to watch TV, drink soda, and do pretty much the opposite of the outdoorsmanship he's been preaching. Idaho discovers him, but before he judges, Gumball convinces him to just try the modern lifestyle, and then they basically go on a bender for the whole night. When Idaho wakes up, he's not responding. Richard then drives all the way to Idaho's home in the country to save him. The scene Richard drives and loops around the tunnels is a reference to 1969 Italian Job with Michael Caine. Next is the Flakers. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin flake out on each other so much that they lose all their trust. However, with Richard's under-severe athleticism, Gumball and Darwin need to make up in order to stop him from doing anything crazy. When Darwin tries to stop Nicole from finding the state of the house, he calls in Nicole's car as stolen from a phone booth to get her stopped by the police. In the phone booth, you can see a poster from the band Biss You, which is a clear parody of Kiss with Biss You, literally meaning kiss in French. Next up is the Authority. In this episode, Richard gets into an accident, causing Granny JoJo to visit and take over watching, or more accurately, managing the family. The accident that Richard gets into causes the roof tiles to fall down on him. However, if you look at the roof on any other shot, it's clearly made out of shingles, so why are tiles falling on him? Episode 20 is titled The Virus, where a colony of viruses have been accumulating on Gumball's hand after not washing it for months. After, of course, Penny touched it. Eventually, Terry forces Gumball to wash it, causing all the viruses to die. But one of the viruses swears revenge on Gumball for all of his fallen brethren and tells Gumball, "I hope your body is ready."
I hope your body is ready.
Which is a reference to the iconic line by former Nintendo US President Reggie Fils-Aimé.
My body is ready.
The next episode is The Pony. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin have to try to rent a DVD to watch with their sister, but the movie's so bad that they need Carrie to try and break the time-space barrier and rent the DVD from them. The movie's titled A Pony's Tale and is a clear parody of My Little Pony, and the movie that Carrie was renting, titled A Nightmare on Elmore Street, is literally just A Nightmare on Elm Street, but with Elm replaced with Elmore. The next episode is The Hero. Richard overhears Gumball and Darwin making fun of him on the playground, causing him to be depressed and lock himself in the shed. Nicole and Anna Yeast berate the boys to force them to apologize to their father. So they head to the shed and look through the window, where they see Richard singing a song about how much both Gumball and Darwin mean to him, while looking at a bunch of pictures from their past. In one of these photos, we see that Darwin was actually a Christmas present, which for the first time ever, we see the origin of Gumball and Darwin. But in later episodes, this piece of lore is completely thrown out the window. Next is The Dream, where Gumball sees Darwin kiss Penny in a dream and makes a huge deal about it. To stop Gumball's crazy jealousy, Darwin builds a dream machine, which allows them to go into their past dreams. Gumball is about to change the dream from Darwin kissing Penny to Darwin kissing Sussy. You can see on the clock before they go to sleep, the time is 3:07, and when they wake up, it's 3:10. can, which means that the time in the dream world moves the exact same as time in the real world. Now we have the sidekick, where Darwin is tired of being Gumball's sidekick, so Gumball lets Darwin take the lead by trying to get their game back from Tobias. Darwin believes the best way to do this is to kidnap Tobias's mom and send a ransom note to get their game back. Gumball freaks out when Darwin tells him what he did, so then they try to return the stolen mother before Tobias finds the note. This whole sequence of Gumball and Darwin getting Tobias's mom back home is a reference to the movie Weekend at Bernie's, where two guys have to fool everyone around them that their boss is actually alive when he's been dead and just propped up by the other guys. In the episode, Gumball and Darwin have to fool the people around them that the lady duct taped to the chair they're rolling around isn't kidnapped, so they draw eyes and a mouth on duct tape and put it over her actual eyes and mouth to look like she's happy, similar to how in Weekend at Bernie's, the two guys put sunglasses on their boss to make it seem like he's still alive. Next up is the potato. Gumball tries to get a good photo for the yearbook, but every single one of them just looks so ugly. Mr. Small says that it can come back later, but that will be the last of the photo retakes. Gumball then gets a literal facelift from Darwin because his face is built like clay. Gumball, now happy with his new face, goes to get his final photo, where he sneezes, ruining his final photo. Many people wonder which photo he used for the yearbook, but if you actually look at the previous episode, you can see in the yearbook that they used one of the pre-facelift ones. Then we have the tag. In this episode, Richard and Mr. Robinson both get into a fight, leading them to both get put under house arrest. You may think that this would lead them to calming down, but no. Both of them go to war, trying many different ways to mess with each other's lives without breaking their house arrest. Gumball has had enough of both of them fighting, so he decides to play a game by locking them in a garbage can, with the only way to get them out being a key inside of a cage, which they both need to get to free themselves. This entire game Gumball has made to teach them a lesson is clearly a reference to the Saw movies, where Jigsaw tries to teach his victims by playing his games. They both even use videotapes for the instructions. Next is the storm, where Carmen tries making Alan jealous by kissing Gumball. This leads to Alan getting super depressed, and Gumball's reputation being dragged through the mud. Masami then suggests to Gumball that he should set her up with Alan to make Carmen jealous. However, it's revealed Masami orchestrated the whole thing just to get with Alan, who she had a massive crush on. This is actually a reference to the pilot episode where Alan and Masami were dating. Up next, we have the lesson, where Gumball and Darwin get sent to jail. Well, actually detention. There are a bunch of references to movies and TV shows in this episode. First, when Gumball and Darwin are goofing off, instead of studying, they're pretending that their stationary items are lightsabers, and they have a whole lightsaber duel. When they get their tattoos in detention, the haircut tattoo is the same as Homer Simpson's haircut. Finally, when both Gumball and Darwin jump off the school roof is a reference to the end of Thamela and Lewis, except they both somehow survive the jump. Then we have episode 29, The Game, where the family plays Dodger Dare, the made-up game that Gumball and Darwin had been playing throughout the series. However, in this episode, they seem terrified of the game, because apparently the effects of the cards happen in real life. Like, if the card says you can't breathe, you can't breathe. This is a massive reference to the Jumanji books and movies, where the effects of the board game come to real life. Next is The Limit, where Nicole drags the family shopping, but the kids aren't having it and want candy. Nicole is adamant not to buy them candy and tells them all off. Eventually, they get the idea to give her a makeover session. The makeover makes her look very similar to Heath Ledger's Joker from Dark Knight, and combined with her going crazy makes her extremely scary. Next up, we have The Voice. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin get a threatening email from someone who they've wronged, except it doesn't narrow it down at all, because they have wronged a lot of people. So Gumball and Darwin just go to apologize to everyone they know. While this is happening, we see the POV of a person who they've wronged stalking them throughout the day with this deep British accent.
You have foolishly fallen into my trap.
Eventually, they find out that it's William, the floating eyeball. The distant voice that William has is actually portrayed by Mick Graves, the writer, creative director, and executive producer of the show. Then there's the promise. Banana Joe is upset with Gumball and Darwin for constantly bailing out on him, which makes Darwin really remorseful. And so he tells Joe that he'll help him with his video on the weekend. However, this makes Gumball super mad as the new Legend of Zelmore released that weekend, and they've been hyped to play it for years. Darwin had even promised that he would come to play it the day it came out. The Legend of Zelmore is clearly a parody of The Legend of Zelda, and when Gumball opens the box with the game in it, he sings the tune that happens whenever Link finds something in a chest. Bonus fact, when Banana Joe is all bandaged up at the end and needs to communicate, he uses a bell, 1 ring for yes, and 2 rings for no. Now, all the cultured viewers would know that this is exactly how Hector Salamanca used to communicate in Breaking Bad. Next is the castle. In this episode, Richard is left in charge of the house when Nicole goes to work, meaning the kids can do whatever they want. However, this quickly turns sour, as pretty much everyone in town goes to the house and takes advantage of Richard's kindness, basically throwing a massive party. Richard tries multiple ways to stop people from trashing the house, even saying no the first time.
I'll have to say no.
But none of these methods work. In the end, Nicole comes back home, sees all the people trashing the house, and tells them to leave. After one of them asks what she's gonna do about it, she pulls him towards her and gets petrified of her stare. This is a reference to the Ghost Rider's stare, which can subdue pretty much everyone. Now we have the boombox, where Juke tries getting Gumball and Darwin to understand him, but he just speaks in random beats. Gumball tries, not very hard, to decipher what he's saying, and one of the things he thinks Juke is saying is "Little Timmy fell down the well."
Little Timmy fell down the well?
Which is from a very old TV show, Lassie. But in Latin America, most people have no idea what Lassie is, so they replaced the line with something that roughly translates to Vin sterilized Jake, which is obviously a reference to Adventure Time, but seriously, what does sterilize mean in this context? Next is the tape, and this episode is filled with Easter eggs. The cheat code Ocho does, up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start is the iconic Konami code, which can be used on the NES. The last name of Carrie is revealed to be Cougar in this episode.
Harry Krueger as Carrie.
A reference to Freddy Cougar from A Nightmare on Elm Street, which could also be a reference to when Carrie rented the spoof Nightmare on Elmore Street in the Pony. The Baby Anais toy is a reference to the Baby Alive toy that had a very similar commercial. The character Gumball plays, Ninja George, looks exactly like John Rambo from the Rambo movies, minus the mullet. And finally, when Gumball is speaking in a British accent during the Nature Doc segment,
Just find spheres. Orbiting spheres.
he's clearly portraying David Attenborough. Next is the sweaters. In this episode, we're introduced to Sarah, who reveals that at her old school, Gumball and Darwin are treated like royalty. This causes 2 of her past classmates, Carlton and Troy, to challenge Gumball and Darwin to a fight, a tennis match fight. Then we're introduced to their coach, Mr. Kreese, who looks exactly like Omni-Man. Even though the show Invincible, where most people first found out about Omni-Man, wasn't released until 2021, the Invincible comics were released in 2003, which means that the creators of Gumball may well have seen Omni-Man and decided to use him as inspiration for Mr. Kreese. The character is also a reference to John Kreese from Karate Kid, because, well, he's an evil coach with the last name Kreese. Up next is the internet, where Gumball gets jump scared by a video and has an interesting reaction. Gumball accidentally uploads the video and becomes instantly viral. Gumball is humiliated and decides to go to war with the internet, where Gumball watches the jump scare video before he gets scared and says,
There's no ghost in this video. It's just a car driving down a road.
This is a reference to the video Rexing Car Drive. The video starts with a car driving down a peaceful road, but then all of a sudden, a scary zombie jumps out and scares the viewers. The reason this video is so iconic, to the point it even got a mention in a Gumball episode, is because it was actually one of the first jump scare / screamer videos to be uploaded, with the original Relaxing Car Drive video uploaded 19 years ago. Next is the plan, where Gumball, Darwin, and Anais find a letter in the dumpster from a man saying how Nicole's beauty and happiness are what he values the most.
Listen to this. Here's another gift because your beauty and happiness is the most important thing in my world. Signed, Daniel Leonard.
The three take this as a man trying to steal Nicole away from Richard, so they devise a plan to stop him. Now, what is the name of this man, you may ask? Well, his name is Daniel Leonard, and is actually named after one of the executive producers. When Gumball, Darwin, and Anais see the billboard for Daniel Leonard, because, spoiler alert, Daniel Leonard isn't actually a real man, it's just a cosmetics company, the guy on the Daniel Leonard billboard is actually the IRL Daniel Leonard. Next is the world, where all the objects in the world of Gumball take over the show, and we get to see their lives. This is the first time that neither Gumball or Darwin play a major role. They are shown in some skits, but this is genuinely the first time they have a minor role in the story, which is an interesting decision, since the show is literally called The Amazing World of Gumball. The final episode of season 2 is appropriately titled The Finale, and probably the most meta the show has ever gotten at this point. The entire plot revolves around the trope that the actions of TV series characters don't face any consequences for their actions in the episode prior. So the Wattersons in this episode are faced with multiple lawsuits for their actions in previous episodes and need to try to resolve them. This leads them to, for some reason, try to make their problems even worse by destroying everything in their path, and one of the things they do is release both Kenneth and Hector, who have a massive kaiju fight. This fight is a big homage to Godzilla vs. King Kong. The first episode of season 3 is titled The Kids. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin lose their voices, and this causes them problems with literally everyone around them. But by the end of the episode, they accept that growing up is just a part of life, only for their voices to immediately glitch out and return to their younger version.
But soon we could drive, go to college, and we both go crazy.
What was that?
This is the last time we hear Logan Grove and Kwesi Bache voice Gumball and Darwin, and it's also the first time we hear Jacob Hopkins and Terrell Ransom Jr. voice them too. The second episode is called The Fan. In this episode, the duo are stalked by their fangirl, Sarah, who tries so hard to inject herself in their lives. Sarah's character is a meta reference to stan culture, which is basically when a celebrity gets so big that some of their fans will literally revolve their entire lives around them, stalking them, pretending to be in a relationship with them, and creating weird fan fiction about them. These are all things that Sarah does to Gumball and Darwin, which understandably freaks them out. Episode 3 is The Coach. In this one, Gumball and Darwin get a new coach, named Coach, who pushes their body to the limit. She's also revealed to be Jamie, the school bully's mom. If you're a big Pixar fan and were watching this episode, you would probably recognize that the coach's voice literally sounds the exact same as Roz from Monsters, Inc. Episode 4 is The Joy. Gumball and Darwin get a wonder hug from Richard, which begins to slowly transform them into happy zombies. But only Miss Simeon can recognize it. Eventually, Miss Simeon is able to fend them off and hide in her office when she realizes that her favorite song, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, was able to revert the joy virus because it was so sad. Miss Simeon tries to use the PA to play the song and revert all the zombies back, but the zombies surround her and she turns infected. The fun fact for this episode is that the Moonlight Sonata isn't technically a sad song. It was actually a love song that Beethoven privately composed for his student. Episode 5 is The Puppy. Gumball, Darwin, and Anais really want a puppy, so they go to Richard to ask him, only to find out that he already bought them a puppy. But when they look in the box, they see it's not a puppy, but a turtle. And not just any turtle, it's an evil turtle, which terrorizes the whole family, specifically Gumball, so much so that they decide to give it back. However, Darwin left the turtle outside for quote-unquote fresh air, but it was like 100 degrees outside, so the turtle raisined up and died, only to be revived by Darwin's tears and run away. This actually happened to the series creator Ben Bucklet's own pet turtle, who died because he left it outside in the sun for too long. This episode also has a bunch of horror movie references, like when the turtle survives being blown up, he walks out of the fire like the Terminator. When the turtle peeks its eyes over the water, the song is very similar to the iconic Jaws theme, and when he runs at Gumball, The song playing is very similar to the classic score from the movie Psycho. And when he hisses, he makes the sound that Hannibal Lecter does when he's describing how he ate a person's liver. Finally, when we get to see the POV of the turtle, all he sees are the heat mappings of the trio, similar to how all the predators from the Predator movies see humans. Episode 6 is The Recipe, which is the first episode to revolve around Anton. Gumball and Darwin have no idea how Anton keeps dying and coming back to life after being killed like literally every day. So they decide to go to his house and snoop around, where they find out that his parents are recreating Anton every day using a special toaster combination. This episode has a bunch of Star Wars references. Firstly, when Richard says, "I feel a great disturbance in the food chain," after an army of Antons gets killed, it's a reference to when Obi-Wan says, "I feel a great disturbance in the Force," after the planet Alderaan gets killed.
I felt a great disturbance in the Force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
Next, when evil Anton tries to convince Gumball to keep him and ditch the real Anton, it's very similar to the scene where Luke and Vader are fighting in Cloud City, and Vader asks Luke to join him.
Join me, and I will complete your training.
Finally, the entire idea of an evil warlord using an army of clones to fight the Chosen One is literally the exact plot of Star Wars. Episode 7 is The Name, where Gumball achieves the high score on an arcade machine and needs to input his name, but he doesn't actually know his real name because Gumball is just a nickname. Eventually, Nicole reveals that his real name is Zach.
Your real name? It's Zach.
Which is apparently such a cool name that Gumball eventually gets controlled by the Zack personality, turning him into a massive douchebag. The game that Gumball was playing on the arcade machine was called Doppelganger, which is good foreshadowing, but a weird name for a fighting game. The next episode is The Extras, which is a similar episode to The World, where instead of a bunch of background objects taking the spotlight away from the duo, instead it's all the background characters. It's an interesting idea, taking characters that we've seen multiple times in the background, just doing absolutely, well, nothing, get to do something. But the fun fact in this episode is actually that the bear who sings, this whole song about getting to shine and being in the spotlight, isn't in any actual segments. Next up is The Gripes, where Gumball and Darwin are just so peeved that nothing can make them happy. This attitude eventually leads the town to think they're homeless and decide to write them a massive check. But when Darwin tells the crowd they're not actually poor, they get really mad. So Gumball says that they're actually so poor and says things like, "We're so poor we can't afford free stuff."
We're like so poor that we can't afford free stuff.
This is a reference to the Yo Mama jokes that were super popular on the internet around a decade ago. Now, you may think this is not actually a reference because it could just be a coincidence that Gumball said a line like that, but one of the people in the crowd say that Gumball just stole that line off the internet.
That's not proof, that's just jokes stolen from the internet. These guys are fake.
Which proves to me that this is supposed to be a reference to Yo Mama. Now, we have The Vacation, where the Watterson family go out on vacation, but their car breaks down, so they have to stay in these weird, possibly mutant humanoid creatures places. Eventually, the Wattersons get so afraid of the family that they book it out of their home and run away. But then it's revealed that the family are actually just regular people that look weird. This episode is a parody of The Hills Have Eyes, where a family's car breaks down on their way to vacation and they get attacked by mutant inbred cannibals. This was actually confirmed by Ben Booklet himself, which is cool as most other parody episodes aren't ever outright stated to be parodies, but it's usually pretty obvious when it is. Next is The Fraud. Principal Brown punishes both Gumball and Darwin for wearing fake spray painted on clothes. He goes on an entire rant about how faking things is wrong, till Gumball sees that Principal Brown's diploma is actually painted onto the wall next to him. Principal Brown begs the kids not to tell anybody, which they agree to do, but for some reason, Principal Brown thinks that the kids are lying and tries to bribe them, to which they decline. Eventually, he decides the only thing he can do is blow up the school. But when Mr. Small finds this out, he stands in front of Principal Brown with trash bags, telling him to stop, only for Principal Brown to literally walk over him. As a kid, I had no idea why he was holding bags, but while researching this video, I found out that this is actually a reference to Tiananmen Square, where a ton of protesters got massacred by the army in Tiananmen Square in China. However, someone coming back from shopping was walking through Tiananmen Square when this was happening, and the man saw 3 tanks moving in a line. He immediately went and started obstructing the tank's path, and since the drivers didn't want to run him over, they stopped, and the image of the guy holding his shopping bags blocking the tank became a popular meme. Then we have the Void. Gumball and Darwin notice their friend Molly has disappeared for years, and when they ask people around, they literally have no idea where she is.
Not one of you remembers Molly!
Wait, did you say Molly?
Yes!
No, I don't remember.
Eventually, they ask for the help of Mr. Small, who takes them to where Elmore ends, which is a literal wall that is on the outside of someone's house. They rip the wall open and see the Void, where a bunch of forgotten stuff is just floating around, like blimps and Darwin's old cell phone. But I think the coolest part about the Void is that there are a bunch of Easter eggs relating to old Gumball. For example, Darwin and the Wattersons' house from the pilot are both there. But the funniest part is that the trio just ignore all of it. Next is the boss, where Rocky wants to earn his father's approval and save him because he's rapidly losing stuffing. So Rocky decides to get a job at Charnex, a soulless corporation where you work till you croak. In order to get the job, Rocky needed to show off a talent, which he does. What's this mysterious talent, you may ask? Well, it's whistling the national anthem with his butt. Then we have the move. Blatant just can't stop lying about himself and how cool he is, when he's really just a massive phony. He keeps trying to convince Gumball and Darwin that he knows a super secret 7 pressure point heart exploding technique, which they are absolutely not buying, until he uses it on Tobias and he collapses. This finger touch heart destroying technique is a reference to the 5-point palm exploding technique featured in the movie Kill Bill a Movie, which the creators have already referenced in the episode The Banana. Next is the Law, where Gumball and Darwin are arrested by Donut Cop for jaywalking. They both yap about cops are so uncool, which leads Donut Cop to show him how cool he is by abusing the law to do fun stuff like getting free food and hacking rides. This leads Gumball and Darwin to actually think the cops are cool, and they sing a song that's called The Sound of Law Enforcement, and this song is clearly a parody of The Sound of the Police. Then we have the allergy, where Darwin starts sneezing a bunch after going to school. This is, at first, not really a big deal, but then he starts to blow things away with his sneezes, and eventually the sneezes become so powerful that they can literally tear holes through things. Gumball takes him to the nurse, where Carrie is there, and thinks that a possible diagnosis could be the G virus, which is actually just the fictional zombie virus from the Resident Evil games. The next episode is The Mothers, where Gumball, Darwin, Tobias, and Banana Joe get into an argument about whose mom is the superest, where they decide the only way to do it is by testing their moms with physical challenges. This episode reveals that Nicole's power level is unfathomable, although in later episodes, this godlike power is referred to all the time. This is the first time we actually get to see it in full force, with her becoming a superhero with a cape and a weird curl on her hair, just like Superman, or I guess Superwoman. Then we have the password, where Richard puts a password on the computer to stop the kids from playing it all the time. Richard and Darwin eventually find out the password is the name of their favorite child. They try all the kids' names, but the funniest one is when they try to put Darwin's name, and he has the big over-the-top speech thanking everybody.
I would like to thank my parents and my manager.
This is a clear reference to the speeches award winners get at the Oscars. I mean, he even thanked his manager for some reason. Like, who is Darwin's manager? The Procrastinators is up next, where Gumball and Darwin are tasked with taking out the trash before Nicole gets home. But they insist on procrastinating by playing games, going on the computer, and eating themselves. Eventually, Mom gets back home, and she's not just any regular angry mom. She turns into the Terminator, which is like the third home homage to the Terminator we've talked about in this video. The next episode is The Shell, where Gumball and Penny are about to finally have their first kiss, but then Gumball headbutts her, causing her shell to crack. This leads to her getting super worried, because unbeknownst to Gumball, she's actually had a true form that's hiding underneath the shell. When Patrick, her father, finds out about the shell, he tries pulling her out of school. Eventually, Gumball gives her the confidence to break out of the shell and be her true form. This episode was so well received that it was chosen to be the submission for the BAFTA for the Best Children's Series, which it actually won. Next is episode 21, The Burden. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin are tasked with taking care of the class pet, Chris Morris, for the weekend. At first, they hate him and think he's gross and a massive burden, but then after helping Gumball with his date with Penny and Darwin with his mental issues, they grow to love Chris Morris, who actually just turns out to be Principal Brown's shaven hair, and the real Chris Morris is still in the principal's office. The name Chris Morris is a reference to the British comedian by the same name who is wildly popular. Since the creators of Gumball are British, they're probably fans of him. Episode 22 is The Bros. In this episode, Gumball wants to propose to Penny, despite them only dating 2 episodes prior. Darwin, however, cannot handle his best friend being stolen away from her, so he does everything to win Gumball back, but this just leads to Penny breaking up with Gumball. Eventually, Darwin helps Gumball get back together with Penny, and everything ends smoothly, except that Penny's house burns down. This is actually Jacob Hopkins' favorite episode of the entire show. Episode 23 is The Mirror. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin get a chainmail saying that if they don't send this email to all their contacts, a demon named the Snatcher will haunt them down. Now, Gumball doesn't believe this and discards the email, but because this is Gumball, obviously the email was real and the Snatcher tries to kill them. The whole sequence of the Snatcher trying to kill them has a bunch of horror Easter eggs. Firstly, the Snatcher coming out of the TV is a parody of The Ring, where the creepy girl crawls out of the TV. The book, Carrie Has to Defeat the Snatcher, is literally just the Necromidon from the Evil Dead franchise, and having to say the Snatcher's name 5 times in front of the mirror.
The book says we summon him by calling his name 5 times.
To summon him is also how you summon Candyman. Finally, the Snatcher's real name, Vlad, is a homage to Vlad the Impaler, the man who Dracula was based off of. Next is The Man. Granny JoJo brings her new boyfriend Louie to the Watterson house for dinner, but Richard does not approve, as he doesn't want him to replace his real father, Frankie, who left to get the milk 35 years ago. This causes Granny JoJo to have to sneak out of the house to meet Louie. When Gumball and Darwin try pushing Granny JoJo on the contraption, they find that she is super heavy because she has a ton of metal limb replacement. So much, in fact, that she's legally classified as a motor vehicle. This means that 75 to 80% of Granny JoJo is metal. The next episode is The Pizza. In this episode, the Watterson family orders a pizza, and while they're reminiscing on the horrible day they just had, well, technically the horrible day Larry had to deal with them, the pizza takes forever to come, so they call the place again, only to find out Larry has quit all of his jobs.
Goodbye, Elmore. I quit.
Turning Elmore into an apocalyptic state. This entire wasteland version of Elmore is based off the dystopian action series Mad Max. Next up is The Lie, where the entire town of Elmore is just so depressed about how lame January is because there's no holiday. So Gumball decides to just lie and make up a holiday.
And so was born the Sluzzle-Tag Lie. Now all the boy needed was the town to comply.
Which leads to the entire town believing that Sluzzle-Tag is actually a real thing. We've seen a lot of horror movies being referenced in the show, but this episode is actually filled with Christmas movie references. Firstly, when Miss Simeon realizes she can destroy Sluzzle-Tag because it's made up, she makes this creepy grin, which freaked me the hell out as a kid, but it's actually just a reference to the Grinch's smile. Next, the family watches a stop-motion movie called The Night Before Sluzzle-Tag. The title of the movie is clearly a reference to The Night Before Christmas, and finally, the film itself looks a lot like the classic Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop-motion cartoon. The next episode is The Butterfly. This episode showcases the effect that a butterfly's flap has on the entire town of Elmore, which causes a bunch of different types of destruction and mayhem, leading to a tornado. A clear demonstration of the butterfly effect. The human face the butterfly has is actually storyboard artist Chuck Kellen's face. Then we have the question, where Gumball and Darwin are banned from eating the unhealthy, soggy cereal. So instead, they have to eat the boring wheat-based garbage. However, they are able to sneak loads of it when Nicole isn't paying attention. But since it's their last time, they need to make the most of it. So they eat it with their eyes, which actually works and sends them into a trance-like state, where they ask, what's the meaning of life?
What's the point of our lives?
This is clearly an innuendo for, shall we say, psychedelic rugs with a D. Next is the Saint. In this episode, Alan is just aggravating Gumball with his niceness and perfectness as a character. This causes Gumball to try to break him, but all of his sadistic attempts fail, with Alan always turning the other cheek. When most people remember this episode, they remember the annoying face Alan makes whenever he does something nice. This face is called the Unikari, and is a common expression used in Japanese manga. Then we have episode 30, where Anais is so lonely that no one comes to her birthday party. This leads her to create an imaginary friend who looks, yeah. He's actually really cool though, and becomes Anais's first friend, until he gets murdered. Most people can probably tell immediately that this episode is based off the Iron Giant, where a lonely kid befriends a scary thing, which actually turns out to be pretty awesome. Episode 31 is the Oracle. Banana Joe's mom paints pictures of events that happened in the Wattersons' lives. However, these pictures are actually dated before the events even happened, implying that she can paint the future. One of these paintings showed Gumball naked in the mall, with a leaf covering his junk and a bunch of people pouncing him. Despite all of Gumball's efforts, this event does come true, but the episode doesn't end there. We actually see Banana Barbara paint another picture of the Watterson family being engulfed by the void. For years, no one knew what this meant, all but in the very final episode, where the world gets engulfed by the void, because the show got canceled, meaning the creators of Gumball predicted their own cancellation, making them the actual oracles. Episode 32 is the Safety. After watching a traumatizing safety PSA, Darwin decides that he needs to make the entire world safe from any sort of violence. Strong language.
Oh, that's because I put the child filter on the house.
What the? Wait, what's happening? It's like there's some kind of device censoring every gosh word I said.
And basically anything that can make anyone upset. This leads him to become the dictator of Elmore, with Gumball needing to stop him. The safety PSA in the beginning is a parody of the Smokey Bear PSA. Almost any American who's been to school has probably seen this. Episode 33 is the Society. In this video, Gumball decides that the reason why nothing goes his way is not because he's a danger to himself and the people around him, but because the school has a secret society and only the people in the society can succeed. This is clearly making fun of the Illuminati conspiracy theorists who believe all their problems come from some ultra-rich secret group out to get them. Episode 34 is the Spoiler. In this episode, Gumball and Darwin have to see the upcoming hyped movie, The Screamin', a week late because they didn't have money to buy a ticket. This means they had to avoid spoilers for the entire week. So eventually, Gumball and Darwin go to see the film, but Anais, stuck in Gumball's bag, records the whole thing, causing Larry to bust in, and the kids having to evade him. If you pay attention and listen to the whole movie, while the escape scene is happening, the dialogue in the movie matches the actions of the trio and Larry.
It's a dead end. What do we do?
Episode 35 is the Countdown, where Gumball and Darwin need to get to school on time or they will get expelled. When Gumball gets out of bed, he spins around just like Wonder Woman did to suit up in her old TV show from all the way back in 1975, but instead of getting a super suit, he just gets regular clothes. Episode 36 is the Nobody. Gumball and Darwin notice that someone else is in their house, and they find out that it's this weird glitching Cyclops guy, who's later revealed to be Rob, who used to just be a random forgettable background character. So forgettable, in fact, that he was sent to the void. But when Gumball and Darwin come back to rescue Molly, he grabbed onto the back of the van and got sent back to the real world, but with his body disfigured. When Gumball and Darwin try to run towards Rob, quote unquote innocently, they look just like the Titans from the popular Attack on Titan anime. Next is the downer, where Gumball wakes up in a super bad mood and wishes everyone away. At first, he likes this new life, with no one to bother him. But then, after singing a song about how life can make you smile, which quickly devolves into why life is so bad, he realizes he needs the people around him. So after being chased around by this darkness thing, he fulfills Darwin's wish from the beginning of the day, and everyone reappears. The plot sounds nice and heartfelt, right? Well, initially, Ben Booklet said that they had to scrap the initial idea of this episode because it was too dark. This was actually confirmed by Ben Booklet himself. I'm surprised that it hasn't gotten more traction with fans, because they've given so much attention to the grieving, a creepy lost episode which is fate. But apparently, there is a real lost idea for an episode that is creepy that no one talks about. Up next is the Triangle. The Elmore Marching Band are going to perform in an upcoming game, and Leslie, as usual, will play the solo. However, Darwin wants to have a turn doing the solo, so Principal Brown asks him to play something, to which Darwin plays the most beautiful song you've ever laid your ears on. The song that Darwin plays is actually the Clair de Lune, an old French piece usually played on flute. The next episode is The Egg. In this episode, Nicole tries to desperately make her family look presentable for the Parham family, who's coming over for a nice lunch. This eventually goes amok as Felicity Parham constantly insults the family, and Anais runs away with Billy, Felicity's son. This episode was actually aired on the Cartoon Network app before it was on TV. Comment below if any of you still have the Cartoon Network app, because you can't get it anymore on the Google Play or App Store. Finally, we have the season 3 finale, The Money. In this episode, Richard wastes all the Wattersons' money on gold, which he threw into an offshore bank account.
Dad, what'd you do with the money?
Well, I did what all the business sharks do to avoid getting taxed. I transferred it to an offshore bank account.
So Larry offers them a deal to become sellouts and act in a new Joyful Burger commercial as a spokes family. But Gumball doesn't agree and say that they shouldn't compromise their morals just for money.
I'm still a child. Nothing in my life has been decided yet. I am free. I haven't sold out to a job I hate. I don't have to be part of this dirty rat race that ruins the world, chasing money I don't need to buy stuff I don't want. I'm free to make my own choices. So yes, Larry, I will have fries with that.
So they have to learn to live without anything. Ben Booklet has said that out of all the episodes in this season, this one was his favorite. Well, that was a lot of facts about Gumball. Part 2 coming soon. Peace. Subscribe and click all the buttons you see on screen. Yep, do it. Okay, good. Yep. All right, you're gonna click it. All right, peace.